The great silver ship broke through the clouds of Nexus Prime, descending toward the Galactic Science Academy. Inside, Dr. Gia Park looked out the window at her new home. Her heart beat fast. After 3 years of waiting, she was finally here. "Prepare for landing, human," the ship's computer said. Even the machine's voice sounded cold. Gia smoothed her dark blue uniform and checked that her datapad was secure. On it were 20 years of research, work that could save dying stars. Work that could change everything. "I'm ready," she whispered to herself. The ship landed with a soft bump. When the doors opened, Gia expected a welcome party. Instead, there stood only one person, a young alien with pale blue skin and large, worried eyes. "Dr. Park," he said, bowing slightly. "I am Do-hyun, junior scientist. I will show you to your quarters." "Thank you," Gia said, stepping onto the soil of Nexus Prime for the first time. "Where is everyone else?" Do-hyun looked away. "The council thought it best to keep your arrival quiet." Gia understood immediately. They were hiding her. The famous human scientist was something to be ashamed of. As they walked through the academy grounds, Gia noticed how other scientists stopped talking when she passed. Some moved away. Others stared with open fear. "They act like I have a disease," Gia said. Do-hyun walked faster. "Humans have a certain reputation here," he said quietly. "You are said to be unpredictable, dangerous. Because we show emotions? Because you act on them," Do-hyun replied. "The 7 systems values order above all. Humans bring chaos." They reached a small building far from the main academy. Gia's quarters were clean but basic, a bed, a desk, and a small kitchen area. The window looked out on a wall. "The lab you requested is being prepared," Do-hyun said. "It should be ready tomorrow. The council has asked that you attend a meeting this evening." After Do-hyun left, Gia sat on the bed and closed her eyes. Earth was 40 light-years away. She was the only human in this star system, and she was clearly not welcome. But the work mattered more than comfort. The stars mattered more than pride. The council chamber was a perfect circle. 7 tall chairs formed an arc around a small platform where Gia now stood. The room was designed to make visitors feel small. Elder Taiho sat in the center chair. His skin was deep blue, almost purple with age. His 4 eyes, common to all people of the 7 systems, studied Gia with open distrust. "Dr. Gia Park of Earth," he said, his voice echoing. "You have been granted access to our academy despite concerns. Please explain the purpose of your visit." Gia took a deep breath. "Thank you for allowing me to come. I'm here to continue my research into stellar rejuvenation. My work suggests the dying stars can be—" "We know what your work suggests," interrupted High Scientist Minji, a female with green-tinted skin and gold rings around each of her 4 eyes. "You believe stars can be manipulated like simple machines." "Not simple machines," Gia corrected. "But yes, with the right approach, we can help stars that are failing before their natural time." Elder Taiho's upper eyes narrowed. "Stars live and die as they should. This is the way of the universe." "With respect," Gia said, "stars sometimes fail because of outside influence. Black holes, unusual radiation, even artificial causes. My work focuses on these cases." "And you wish to use our academy's resources for this interference with nature?" asked Elder Taiho. "I wish to use your stellar observation equipment, yes. The 7 systems has the best view of multiple star types in this quadrant." A younger council member leaned forward. His skin was the lightest blue Gia had seen yet. "I am Ambassador Hayek. I am curious. Why did Earth send you alone? Why not a full research team?" The question had a hidden meaning. They wanted to know why Earth had sent only one dangerous human instead of many. "My work is not officially supported by Earth's Science Council," Gia admitted. "They consider it too theoretical, too risky." This caused whispering among the council members. Elder Taiho raised his hand for silence. "So even your own kind considers this work inappropriate," he said. They consider it unproven, Gia corrected. That's why I'm here to prove it. High Scientist Minji stood. You will be granted limited access to our facilities. Junior Scientist Do-hyun will assist you and report your activities to the Council. You may not access any equipment without approval. You may not contact other scientists without permission. Is this clear? Yes, Gia said. Though inside she felt anger rising, she was being treated like a criminal. Thank you for the opportunity. As Gia left the chamber, she heard Ambassador Hyuk say, We should give her a chance. Humans have made great discoveries before. Elder Taeho's response was clear. Humans have also brought great destruction. The lab they gave Gia was old and located in the basement level of the Academy's West Building. The equipment was outdated. The computer systems were slow, but it was better than nothing. For 3 weeks, Gia worked within the strict limits the Council had set. Do-hyun watched her constantly but slowly began to show interest in her work. These patterns, he said one day, pointing to Gia's screen. What do they mean? Gia smiled. Finally, some real scientific curiosity. They show energy fluctuations in stars. Healthy stars have regular patterns. Sick stars, stars in trouble, show irregular patterns. And your research helps find these sick stars? Yes, and potentially heal them. Do-hyun's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of excitement in his species. This is why you requested access to the Twin Suns Observatory? Exactly. The twin suns of Nexus are perfect study subjects. 2 stars, same age, same composition, orbiting each other. Do-hyun looked nervous again. The Council will never approve. The twin suns are sacred to many people here. Science and faith can exist together, Gia said. I don't want to harm the suns. I want to understand them better. That night, after Do-hyun left, Gia broke the rules. She used her personal datapad to connect to the Academy's main stellar observatory. It was wrong, she knew. But she needed data the Council wouldn't give her. The first scans of the twin suns came through just before midnight. Gia gasped. The patterns were wrong. Very wrong. The twin suns were showing early signs of instability. Not enough for the Academy's standard equipment to notice yet, but clear in Gia's specialized scans. The resonance between the 2 stars was becoming dangerous. Gia ran calculations. Until dawn. The results were always the same. If the pattern continued, both suns would begin to collapse within 2 years. The resulting dual supernova would destroy the entire Nexus system. Billions of lives were at risk, and Gia was probably the only person who knew. As the first light of the twin suns shone through her small window, Gia made a decision. She would have to convince the Council of the danger. But given how they already viewed humans, as dangerous and chaotic, would they even listen when she told them their worlds were about to end? She had to try. She had to make them see, even if it meant they would fear her more. Gia closed her eyes, feeling the weight of entire worlds on her shoulders. Tomorrow she would have to tell people who already distrusted her that their beloved suns, their sacred stars, were dying, and that she, the human they feared, might be their only hope. Morning came too quickly. Gia had not slept. Her eyes were red as she gathered her data and prepared to face the Council. The fate of billions now rested on her ability to convince people who already distrusted her. You look unwell, Do-hyun said, when he arrived to escort her. Is everything okay? Gia considered telling him first, but decided against it. The Council needed to hear this directly. I need an emergency meeting with the Council, she said. Today. Do-hyun's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. That's not possible. The Council meets on scheduled days only. This can't wait, Gia insisted. It's about the twin suns. Something in her voice must have convinced him. 3 hours later, Gia stood once again on the small platform in the Council chamber. This time, all 7 members were present, looking annoyed at the interruption. Dr. Park, Elder Taeho said coldly, you have requested this emergency session. Speak quickly. Gia connected her datapad to the chamber's display system, the room filled with glowing charts and images of the twin suns. Last night, I ran specialized scans of your twin sons, she began. Without permission, High Scientist Minji noted. Yes, Jia admitted. And I'm sorry for that. But what I found couldn't wait. She pointed to the pulsing patterns on the largest display. These show a dangerous resonance pattern forming between your twin sons. They're feeding each other's instability. Based on these readings, both stars will begin collapsing within 2 years. The chamber fell silent. Elder Taiho's face darkened. And what happens then? Ambassador Hayek asked quietly. A dual supernova, Jia said. The entire Nexus system would be destroyed. All 7 planets, all moons, everything. High Scientist Minji stood. This is absurd. Our stellar monitoring systems are the most advanced in the quadrant. They show no such danger. Your systems aren't designed to detect these specific patterns, Jia explained. My research specializes in this type of stellar behavior. Elder Taiho's voice turned even colder. So the human arrives in our system and immediately discovers a catastrophe that our scientists missed. How convenient. Convenient? Jia couldn't believe what she was hearing. There's nothing convenient about the death of billions. What Elder Taiho means, said another council member, is that humans are known for creating crises where none exist. Jia took a deep breath. Look at the data yourselves. Have your scientists review it, but please do it quickly. We don't have much time. High Scientist Minji stepped down from her seat and examined the displays up close. After several minutes, she said, These patterns could be normal fluctuations. Stars are not static objects. Not these patterns, Jia insisted. Not at this frequency. Ambassador Yuck raised his hand. I suggest we take this seriously enough to investigate further. If Dr. Park is right, she is not. Elder Taiho interrupted. This is either a mistake or a deception. Both are common with humans. The debate continued for another hour. In the end, High Scientist Minji agreed to review Jia's data with the Academy's top stellar experts. Elder Taiho made it clear he considered this a waste of time. As Jia left the chamber, Ambassador Hayuk caught up to her. I believe you may be right, he said quietly. But the Council fears change and fears outsiders even more. Keep working. Find more evidence. We might not have time for that, Jia said. Make time, he replied simply, before walking away. 3 days later, High Scientist Minji's report was delivered to Jia's quarters. The conclusion was clear. The patterns she had detected were within normal parameters for a binary star system. Jia threw the report across the room. They're wrong, she said aloud to her empty quarters. They're wrong, and everyone will die, because they won't listen. That night, Jia made a difficult decision. She sent an encrypted message to Earth, to her old colleague Dr. Sunwoo Kim. She included all her data on the twin sons and a simple message. Need your help. Billions at risk. Bring equipment. It would take the message 3 weeks to reach Earth and at least 3 months for any help to arrive. Meanwhile, she had to keep trying to convince the Council. Over the next month, Jia gathered more data. She worked day and night, breaking more rules to access better equipment when Do-hyun wasn't watching. The patterns were getting worse. The twin suns were beginning to show visible signs of instability, small flares that the Academy scientists dismissed as normal activity. You need to rest, Do-hyun told her one evening. You've barely slept in weeks. Jia looked up from her screens. I can't. Every day matters now. Do-hyun hesitated, then sat down next to her. I've been studying your research, he admitted. The resonance patterns you've identified, they're increasing, aren't they? Jia stared at him in surprise. Yes. You can see it? I've been comparing daily readings. The pattern is 3.7% stronger than when you first detected it. For the first time in weeks, Jia felt a spark of hope. Someone was finally listening. Someone finally understood. Do-hyun, the Council trusts you. Could you help me convince them? The young scientist's 4 eyes guarded nervously. They would end my career, but If what you're saying is true, careers won't matter soon anyway. He stood up straighter. I will help you. 2 months after Gia's arrival on Nexus Prime, the first major solar flare erupted from the smaller of the twin suns. It disabled satellites and caused power failures on the closest planet. The Academy was in chaos. Gia and Do-hyun rushed to Elder Taiho's private office. This is just the beginning, Gia said, not bothering with formal greetings. The flares will get worse, more frequent, more powerful. Elder Taiho looked shaken. Our scientists say this is a random event. Rare, but natural. It's not, Do-hyun said, stepping forward. I've verified Dr. Park's findings independently. The resonance pattern is real and growing stronger. Elder Taiho's eyes narrowed at Do-hyun. You two have been corrupted by human panic. It's not panic, Gia insisted. It's science, and we're running out of time. As if to emphasize her point, alarms sounded throughout the building. The second sun had just released an even larger flare. Elder Taiho stared out his window at the too bright sky. For the first time, Gia saw fear in his eyes. What can be done? He asked quietly. I have a theory, Gia said. A way to reset the resonance pattern and stabilize both suns. But I need full access to Academy resources, and I need the Council's support. Before Elder Taiho could answer, High Scientist Minji burst into the office. The recent flares match Dr. Park's predictions exactly, she said, her voice shaking. We were wrong. Elder Taiho closed all 4 of his eyes briefly. When he opened them, he looked at Gia differently, not with trust, but with desperate hope. Tell us what you need, he said. Just then, Gia's datapad buzzed with an incoming message. It was from Earth. Dr. Sunwoo Kim had received her call for help. We're on our way. The message read, Bringing equipment, hold on. Gia looked up at Elder Taiho and Minji. My colleagues from Earth are coming to help. They'll be here in about a month. A month? Minji's voice rose in panic. The flares are happening now. We'll do what we can until they arrive, Gia said firmly. But saving your sons will require equipment that doesn't exist in your system yet. We need to prepare. As the 3 of them looked out the window, another flare burst from the twin suns, turning the sky a dangerous, angry red. The stars that had nurtured life in this system for billions of years were dying, and now the people who had feared Gia were turning to her to save them. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of Gia's life. Solar flares from the twin suns grew more frequent and more powerful. 2 small settlements on the 4th planet had to be evacuated. The Academy gave Gia a new lab, the best one they had, but it wasn't enough. She needed the special equipment that Sunwoo was bringing from Earth. Another communication satellite is down, Do-hyun reported one morning. He looked tired. Neither of them had slept much lately. That makes 17 this week. Gia nodded, her eyes fixed on the simulation running on her screen. The pattern is accelerating. We have less time than I thought. High Scientist Minji entered the lab, followed by Ambassador Hyuk. Both looked grim. The council is meeting to discuss evacuation plans, Minji said. Evacuation? Gia turned away from her screen. Of the entire system? Of key personnel, Ambassador Hyuk clarified. Government officials, scientific experts, cultural leaders. Gia couldn't believe what she was hearing. And everyone else? Minji looked down. There aren't enough ships to evacuate 7 planets. So most people will be left to die, Gia said flatly. Unless you can offer a better solution, Hyuk challenged. Gia took a deep breath. I've been developing a device. A stellar stabilizer. It could reset the resonance pattern between the suns, but I need the components Sunwoo is bringing. How would this device work? Minji asked. Gia pulled up diagrams on the main screen. It would need to be deployed directly into each sun. Once activated, it creates a controlled fusion reaction that counteracts the dangerous resonance. Deployed into the suns? Hyuk looked shocked. That's impossible. Not impossible, just very difficult, Gia corrected, and very dangerous. This is blasphemy, came a voice from the doorway. Elder Tejo stood there, his face dark with anger. You wish to invade our sacred sons with human machines? I wish to save them, Gia said firmly, and save your people too. The council has decided, Elder Tejo announced. Evacuation plans are being finalized. Your experiments are no longer authorized. But, Gia began. This discussion is over, Elder Tejo said. Your lab will be closed. Your equipment reassigned. To evacuation preparations. After they left, Gia slammed her fist on the desk. They're giving up. Billions will die. Do-Yun placed a hand on her shoulder. What can we do without the council's support? Gia thought for a moment. I know someone who might help us. That night, Gia and Do-Yun snuck out of the academy. They took a small transport to the outskirts of the main city, to an area known as the Fringe. Here lived those who had fallen from the council's favor, scientists whose ideas were too radical, engineers who broke too many rules. Are you sure about this? Do-Hyun whispered as they walked through dark, narrow streets. No, Gia admitted, but we're out of options. They stopped at a small workshop with a faded sign. Inside, a woman with deep blue skin and missing left eyes was working on some kind of engine. She looked up as they entered. A human, she said, surprised. And an academy scientist. Strange company indeed. Are you Yunji? Gia asked. The woman nodded. Once the academy's top engineer, now just a fringe mechanic. What brings you to my door? We need help, Gia said. The kind the council won't give. She explained about the dying sons and her plan to save them. Yunji listened without interrupting. So you want to build a device that's never been built before, using parts you don't have yet to fly into the hearts of dying stars? Yunji laughed. I like your style, human. Will you help us? Do-Hyun asked. Yunji looked at him closely. You're risking everything. Your career, your standing. What good is standing in a dead system? He replied. Yunji smiled. Good answer. She turned to Gia. I can help with the device's housing, make it strong enough to survive long enough inside a star. But we'll need more help. I know, Gia said. And I think I know where to find it. Over. The next few days, a small group formed in Yunji's workshop. Scientists and engineers who had been cast out for dangerous thinking now worked day and night on Gia's stellar stabilizer. They built what they could with available parts, leaving space for the critical components Sunwoo would bring. Meanwhile, the situation grew worse. Major flares now occurred daily. The second planet had to be completely evacuated. The Council seized all major ships for their evacuation plans. One morning, a small Earth ship landed at the spaceport. Dr. Sunwoo Kim had arrived with 3 other scientists and crates of specialized equipment. The reunion between Gia and Sunwoo was brief, but emotional. I came as soon as I could, he said, hugging her tightly. Earth didn't want to send us, they said it was too risky. So how did you get here? Gia asked. Sunwoo smiled. We borrowed this ship. We'll probably be arrested when we get home. If we get home. If any of us survive this, I'll make sure you don't go to jail, Gia promised. They transported the equipment to Yunji's workshop. With the Earth components finally available, work on the stabilizers accelerated. They would need 2, 1 for each son. 5 days after Sunwoo's arrival, Council security forces raided the workshop. By order of the Council, all unauthorized scientific work is to cease immediately, the lead officer announced. Dr. Gia Park, you are under arrest for conspiracy against the 7 systems. Gia stood in front of the partially completed stabilizers. We're trying to save your world. Take her, the officer ordered. Do-Hyun stepped between them. You'll have to take me too. And me, said Yunji. All of us, Sunwoo added as the Earth scientists joined them. The security forces hesitated, then moved forward. They had weapons. Gia and her team did not. Stop. Ambassador Hyuk stepped into the workshop. These people are under my protection. The security officer looked confused. Sir, We have orders from Elder Taiho. I have orders from the full council, Hyuk countered, though Jia suspected he was lying. This project is now officially sanctioned. After the security forces left, Jia turned to Hyuk. Thank you, but the council never approved this. No, he admitted, but by the time Taiho discovers my lie, it will be too late to stop you. He looked at the stabilizers. Will they work? In theory, Jia said, but deploying them will be extremely dangerous. We'd need ships that can withstand the heat and radiation of the stars, at least long enough to reach the optimal position. Yoonji spoke up. I've been working on modified heat shields. They won't last long, but maybe long enough. And who would pilot these suicide missions? Hyuk asked. The room fell silent. Finally, Jia said, I will take one ship. We need one more volunteer. I'll do it, Sunwoo said without hesitation. Jia wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped. Her. He had come across 40 light years to help. He knew the risks. 2 ships, Yoonji said. 2 pilots, 2 stabilizers, 2 suns. She looked at the half-finished devices. We can be ready in 10 days. The suns might not give us 10 days, Do-Yun warned, checking the latest readings. The resonance pattern is reaching critical levels. Outside, the sky flashed with another massive flare. The ground shook slightly. Then we work faster, Jia said simply. As they returned to their work, word of their plan spread through the city. People began to gather outside the workshop, first dozens, then hundreds. Some came to watch, others to help. These were the people the council had decided to abandon. Now they placed their hope in a human they had once feared and the team of outcasts working beside her. Inside the workshop, Jia looked at the stabilizer cores glowing with test energy. If they failed, billions would die. If they succeeded, the suns would live, even if she did not. Either way, there was no turning back. Now, 7 days passed in a blur of work and worry. The twin suns grew more unstable each day. The sky was often red now, and people stayed indoors when possible. 3 more planets had been partially evacuated. The council ships carried away the chosen few while ordinary citizens watched helplessly. At Yoonji's workshop, Jia and her team worked without stopping. The 2 stellar stabilizers were nearly complete. Yoonji had modified 2 small ships with experimental heat shields that might survive long enough to reach the cores of the dying suns. The latest readings are bad, Do-Hyun said, entering the workshop with his datapad. We have 5 days at most before total collapse begins. Jia wiped sweat from her forehead and looked at the stabilizers. We need 2 more days to finish and test, then 1 day to prepare the ships. That leaves little room for error, Sunwoo noted. No room for error, Jia corrected, but we'll make it work. As they spoke, a commotion arose outside. The crowd that had gathered around the workshop parted, and Elder Taiho walked in, followed by a group of council guards. Everyone tensed, ready for another arrest attempt, but Taiho raised his hand. I am not here to stop you, he said, his voice softer than Jia had ever heard it. I am here to help. No one spoke for a moment. Finally, Jia asked, Why the change of heart? Taiho looked tired, his blue skin paler than before. I have been to the Temple of Stars. I have prayed for guidance, and I have come to believe that perhaps the universe sent you to us for a reason. He stepped closer to the stabilizers. These devices, they will truly save our sons? If we can deploy them correctly, yes, Jia said. Then the council offers its full resources, Taiho said. Better ships, more workers, whatever you need. Jia exchanged looks with her team. This was unexpected. But welcome, we need better ships, Yoonji said immediately. The ones we have might not survive long enough. Done, Taiho said. What else? A full evacuation of the inner planets, Jia added, just in case we fail. Taiho hesitated. The council has already allocated all ships to key personnel. All people are key, Jia interrupted. You don't get to decide whose life matters more. The elder's 4 eyes blinked slowly. I will speak to the council. After he left, Sunwoo turned to Jia. Do you trust him? Not entirely, she admitted. But we need the help. 2 days later, the stabilizers were complete. They were beautiful in their way, gleaming silver spheres, about the size of a human head, with intricate patterns of blue energy flowing across their surfaces. The Council had provided 2 proper ships, small but built for extreme conditions. Yunji had worked day and night to install her special heat shields. They'll hold for about 6 minutes in direct stellar matter, she explained as they prepared for launch. After that, she didn't need to finish. After that, the ships would melt, along with anyone inside them. How long do we need to reach the deployment point? Sunwoo asked. 5 minutes and 30 seconds, Jia said. If everything goes perfectly. Do-Hyun looked worried. That's cutting it very close. It's the best we can do, Yoonji said. Outside the workshop, thousands of citizens had gathered. News of the mission had spread throughout the system. This was their last hope. Elder Taeho arrived with the full council. For once, they didn't look superior or judgmental. They looked afraid. The ships are ready, Taeho announced. The path has been cleared. All air traffic has been grounded. Jia nodded. We launch in 1 hour. Each ship will target one sun. The stabilizers must be deployed simultaneously to work properly. The timing must be perfect, Sunwoo added. We'll be in constant communication until the final approach. High Scientist Minji stepped forward. These are the deployment coordinates. She handed each of them a data chip. Based on your calculations, these are the optimal points within each sun. Thank you, Jia said, surprised by the help. Minji hesitated, then reached out and took Jia's, and I was wrong about you, we all were. The hour passed quickly as final preparations were made. Jia and Sunwoo put on special heat-resistant suits that might give them a few extra seconds if needed. As they prepared to board their ships, Do-Hyun approached Jia. I want to go instead of you, he said. Jia shook her head. You don't know how to operate the stabilizer. You could teach me, right now. There's no time, Jia said gently. Besides, someone needs to stay and coordinate from here. I trust you to do that. Do-Hyun's 4 eyes filled with tears. You came to save our stars, not to die for them. I came to do what's necessary, Jia said, whatever that means. The moment of departure arrived. Jia boarded her ship and strapped in. Through the communication system, she heard Sunwoo doing the same. All systems online, he reported. Heat shields activated. Same here, Jia confirmed. Ready for launch. Do-Hyun's voice came through the speaker. Launch in 10 seconds. 9, 8. Jia closed her eyes briefly. She thought of Earth, so far away, of her family, of all the stars she had studied but never thought she would enter. 3, 2, 1, launch. The ships rose quickly, their engines glowing blue against the red sky. The crowd below watched in silence as their last hope climbed toward the dying suns. Jia's ship accelerated past the atmosphere. Ahead, the twin suns loomed larger than she had ever seen them. They pulsed with angry red energy. Flares shot out, like reaching hands. Beginning approach to Sun 1, she reported. Approaching Sun 2, Sunwoo confirmed. Heat shields holding. The ships separated, each heading toward one of the twins. As Jia's ship drew closer, the temperature rose rapidly, despite the shields. Warning lights flashed across her control panel. Entering the outer atmosphere, she reported, her voice steady despite her fear. Temperature rising. Same here, Sunwoo replied. Shield at 80% capacity. They pushed deeper into the suns. The ships shook violently. Jia's control panel began to melt at the edges. Shield at 50%, she reported. 3 minutes to deployment point. Shield at 45%, Sunwoo responded. Still on target. Another minute passed. The heat was unbearable now. Jia's suit was the only thing keeping her skin from burning. Shield at 20%, she said, her voice strained. 2 minutes to deployment. There was no response. Sunwoo? Report status. Silence. Sunwoo, come in. His voice finally crackled through, broken by static. Shield failing, hull breach, still going. Gia wanted to tell him to turn back, but there was nowhere to go. They were too deep in the stars now. The only way was forward. 1 minute to deployment, she said, preparing stabilizer. Her hands moved across the controls, activating the device. The stabilizer hummed to life, its blue patterns glowing brighter. 30 seconds, she announced. Sunwoo, status, through. The static, she heard just 2 words. Almost. There. Gia's ship gave a violent shudder. The front viewport cracked. Heat poured in. Warning alarms screamed. Deployment point reached, she gasped. Deploying now! She hit the release button. The ship's small cargo bay opened, and the stabilizer shot forward into the heart of the sun. Stabilizer deployed, she shouted. Sunwoo? Through the dying communication system, she heard his faint voice. Deployed. Activating. Gia pressed the activation sequence. The stabilizers would now link across space, creating a resonance field between them that would counteract the deadly pattern. Her control panel exploded in sparks. The viewport shattered completely. The last thing Gia saw was a wave of stellar fire rushing toward her. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Let it work. Please let it work." Then everything was light and heat and silence. For 3 days, the entire Nexus system waited and watched the twin suns. After Gia and Sunwoo's ships disappeared into the stars, the communication system went silent. No one knew if the stabilizers had worked. The suns grew even more violent at first. Massive flares shot out in all directions. The sky turned deep red, then almost black as strange energy patterns rippled across both stars. Is this normal? Elder Taeho asked, standing in the observation center with Dohyun, Yoonji, and the remaining Earth scientists. We don't know, Dohyun admitted. No one has ever done this before. The waiting was the hardest part. People across the system prayed to whatever gods they believed in. Some prayed to the suns themselves. Others, for the first time, prayed for the human who had flown into the fire to save them. On the 3rd day, something changed. The violent flares began to slow down. The angry red color of the sun started to fade, replaced by a softer orange. Glow. Look. Yoonji pointed to the readings on her screen. The resonance pattern is breaking down. Dohyun checked his own instruments. The stabilizers are working. The energy balance is shifting toward normal parameters. High scientist Minji ran additional tests. Core temperatures are stabilizing in both suns. A cheer went up in the observation center. Elder Taeho closed all 4 of his eyes in what looked like a prayer of thanks. They did it, Dohyun whispered. Gia and Sunwoo did it. His joy was mixed with grief. Everyone knew the brave pilots could not have survived their mission. They had given their lives so that billions could live. We should tell the people, Minji said. Elder Taeho nodded. Yes, and we should tell them who saved them. The announcement went out to all 7 planets. The twin suns were healing. The system was saved. And it was all thanks to Dr. Gia Park of Earth and her team. Celebrations broke out everywhere. People who had been preparing for death now rejoiced in life. But amid the celebration, there was also remembrance for those who had sacrificed everything. 1 week after the successful mission, the Council called a special gathering in the main square of Nexus Prime. Thousands attended in person. Billions more watched through communication networks. Elder Taeho stood before the crowd, looking humbler than anyone had ever seen him. Throughout our history, he began, we have looked to the stars for guidance. We have worshipped them as the givers of life. But when our beloved sons began to die, we did not know how to save them. He gestured to the sky, where the twin suns now shone with healthy yellow light. It took someone from beyond our system, someone we feared and mistrusted, to show us the way. Dr. Gia Park came to study our stars. Instead, she gave her life to save them, and to save us all. Dohyun stepped forward next. The Council has created a new position, Guardian of the Stars. This person will continue the work that Dr. Park began, monitoring our suns and others throughout the 7 systems. And who will be the first Guardian? Someone from the crowd called out. Do-hyun straightened his shoulders. I will. I learned from Dr. Park. I will honor her memory by continuing her work. Ambassador Hyuk addressed the crowd next. We have sent a message to Earth, telling them of Dr. Park's heroism and the sacrifice of Dr. Sunwoo Kim. Their homeworld should know how their people saved ours. The message would take weeks to reach Earth. But already human ships were arriving in the Nexus system. Word had spread quickly about what had happened here. Humans, once feared and avoided, were now welcomed as friends. 1 year after the mission, a new building stood in the center of Nexus Prime. It was the memorial to the Star Saviors. At its heart was a statue of Gia, her arms reaching up toward the twin suns. Around the base of the statue were written the words, "She came as a stranger, she left as a savior." On the anniversary of the mission, people from all 7 planets gathered at the memorial. Elder Taiho, now looking much older, led the ceremony. "A year ago, our world was ending," he said. "Now, we are thriving again. Our suns are healthy, our planets are at peace, and we have learned an important lesson. Fear of the unknown can blind us to those who would help us." Do-hyun, wearing the blue robes of the Guardian of the Stars, placed a wreath of glowing crystals at the foot of Gia's statue. "We called her many things when she first arrived," he said to the crowd. "Outsider, human, dangerous, but now, throughout the 7 systems, she is known by a different name." The crowd spoke as one. Star Mother. On Earth, news of Gia's heroism had changed how humans were viewed across the galaxy. Worlds that had once closed their doors to human visitors now invited them. The knowledge that humans would sacrifice themselves to save others had transformed their reputation. Sunwoo's family received the highest honors Earth could give. His children would grow up knowing their father had helped save billions of lives. Gia had no family left on Earth. But in the Nexus system, she had found a different kind of family, people who now named their children after her and told her story each night before bed. 5 years after the mission, Do-hyun made an amazing discovery. The data from the stabilizers, which still functioned deep within the twin suns, showed something unexpected. The resonance pattern that had threatened to destroy the system had not been natural. It had been artificial. Someone or something had been trying to kill the suns. Do-hyun took this troubling information to the council. They agreed to keep it secret while they investigated. Yoonji was called in to help, along with scientists from Earth. Together, they began to look for clues about who might want to destroy an entire star system. As they worked, they felt as if Gia was still guiding them somehow. Do-hyun often found himself asking what would Gia do when faced with a difficult problem. 10 years after the mission, children in schools across the 7 systems learned about the human woman who had saved their worlds. The story had become legend, how she had come from far away, how the people had feared her, how she had seen the danger no one else noticed, and how she had given everything to save them. In the evenings, parents took their children outside to look at the healthy twin suns setting on the horizon. "See how bright they are," they would say. "That is because the Star Mother watches over them." Some claimed that on special nights, when the light from the twin suns hit the clouds just right, you could see Gia's face smiling down. Scientists said it was just a natural phenomenon, but many preferred to believe it was her, still watching over the stars she had saved. On the 20th anniversary, now a major holiday throughout the 7 systems, Elder Taiho, very old but still strong in spirit, stood once more before Gia's statue. "We once feared humans," he told the crowd. "We thought they were unpredictable, emotional, and dangerous. We were right about the first 2 things." The crowd laughed softly. "Humans are unpredictable, and they are emotional. But these are not weaknesses. They are strengths. It was Gia Park's human heart that made her fight for us when we rejected her. It was her human courage that made her fly into the fire when others would have fled." He looked up at the statue, at the face of the woman who had changed everything. "She taught us that different does not mean dangerous. She taught us that sometimes you must trust a stranger, and she taught us that the universe is full of wonders we have yet to understand." As he spoke, the twin suns began to set. their light catching the metal of Gia's statue and making it glow as if alive. To Dr. Gia Park of Earth, Elder Taiho said, raising his hands toward the suns. Our Star Mother. The crowd repeated the words like a prayer. Our Star Mother. And somewhere, perhaps in the heart of the stars themselves, perhaps in the memory of a grateful people, Gia's spirit lived on, watching over the sons she had saved and the people who had once feared her, but now called her their own.